The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands, like it contained more than just paper. My fingers trembled as I traced the embossed law firm logo, already knowing what waited inside. The return address confirmed my worst fears. Bryant and Associates. Of course, Xander would use his own firm to serve me. I'm Vienna, and until 6 months ago, I was married to a man I thought was my biggest supporter. Now he's become my worst nightmare. Taking a moment to connect with you. Where in the world has this story reached you? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe for daily tales of justice. Back to what happened next. You need to open it, V, my brother Sean said from across my kitchen counter. The same kitchen where I'd spent countless nights perfecting recipes, where Xander had first kissed me, where I'd shared my dreams of opening a culinary institute focused on traditional Sicilian cuisine. I know what it says. I slammed the envelope down next to the cutting board where I'd been prepping ingredients for tonight's private dining event. He's suing me for stealing his business concept. My business concept. Open it anyway. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. The sharp scent of fresh basil filled the air as I roughly chopped the herbs, probably with more force than necessary. You know what kills me? He watched me develop this idea for years. All those nights I spent researching my grandmother's recipes, the trips to Sicily to learn from local chefs, the endless test runs of every dish. He was there for all of it. Vienna, stop destroying that basil and open the damn envelope. I wiped my hands on my apron and tore open the seal. The legal jargon swam before my eyes, but certain phrases jumped out like neon signs. Intellectual property infringement, damages in excess of 500,000 Tausenders, immediate cessation of operations. He's trying to shut down the institute before it even opens, my voice cracked. Everything I've worked for. The kitchen door swung open and Riker burst in, his chef's whites already stained from prep work. Boss, the Hendersons just called. They're bringing an extra 4 guests tonight. He stopped short when he saw my face. What's wrong? I handed him the papers. His eyes widened as he scanned them. This is insane, he said. Everyone knows this was your idea. Sarah even wrote about your concept in that culinary magazine piece last year. The magazine. I'd forgotten about that. My mentor Sarah had featured me in her column, documenting my journey to preserve traditional Sicilian cooking techniques. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. Not now, I muttered, declining the call. Actually, Sean said, you should talk to Mom. She might have some insights about handling Xander. She never did trust him, remember? Yeah, and I should have listened. I grabbed a wine glass from the rack, then thought better of it. I needed a clear head. But first, we have a dinner service to get through. Riker, tell Marco to double the risotto prep. I'll adjust the rest of the portions. You sure you're up for cooking tonight? Sean asked. I tied my apron strings tighter. Cooking is the only thing keeping me sane right now. Besides, I have 8 people paying good money to eat my food. I'm not letting Xander ruin that too. Riker hesitated by the door. We're all behind you, you know that, right? The whole kitchen crew. Thanks. I managed a small smile. Now go prep those extra portions before I start crying into the marinara sauce. After they left, I stood alone in my kitchen, surrounded by the familiar comfort of herbs and spices. The lawsuit papers mocked me from the counter. 6 months ago, I'd signed divorce papers in Xander's office, thinking that was the end of it. I should have known better. He'd always been calculating, always 3 steps ahead. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom this time. Call me. I know about the lawsuit. There's something you need to know about Xander. Before I could respond, the kitchen door swung open again. Chef, called Marco, my sous chef, the first guests are arriving early. Should we adjust the timing? I straightened my spine and tucked the papers into my office drawer. No adjustments needed. We stick to the plan. I grabbed my chef's knife, its weight familiar and reassuring in my hand. Time to show everyone what real Sicilian cooking tastes like. But as I called out prep orders and orchestrated the kitchen's controlled chaos, my mind kept circling back to one thought. Xander wasn't just trying to steal my business. He was trying to erase my heritage, my grandmother's legacy, everything that made me who I am. Well, he'd picked the wrong chef to mess with. In Sicily, they say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I've always preferred my revenge like my marinara, slow-simmered and prepared with absolute precision. I picked up my phone and texted Mom back. Coming over after service, tell me everything. The kitchen timer dinged, and I pushed thoughts of lawsuits and betrayal aside. I had a dinner service to run. But tomorrow I'd start cooking up something special just for Xander. Mum's kitchen smelled like Sunday gravy, the rich aroma of tomatoes and herbs filling every corner. She stirred the pot while I sat at her worn oak table, clutching a cup of espresso that had gone cold. He did the same thing to Sarah, Mum said, her wooden spoon clicking against the pot's edge. 15 years ago, before he even passed the bar. Sarah? My Sarah? I set the cup down so hard coffee sloshed onto the table. My mentor, Sarah? Why do you think she was so eager to feature you in that magazine? Mum wiped her hands on her apron and sat across from me. She wanted documentation, proof. She knew exactly what Xander was capable of. The pieces started falling into place. That's why she always seemed uncomfortable around him at industry events. Call her, Mum insisted, sliding her phone across the table. She's been waiting for this day. My hands shook as I dialed Sarah's number. She answered on the first ring like she'd been expecting my call. Vienna, darling. I heard about the lawsuit. How did you... News travels fast in the culinary world. Listen carefully. I have everything you need. Photos, notes, dated correspondence about your concept going back 5 years. And something else. Proof that Xander tried to steal my restaurant concept back when he was a law student working as my busboy. I nearly dropped the phone. What? He didn't succeed with me because I caught him photographing my business plans. I should have pressed charges, but I was young and scared of legal battles. I just fired him and warned other restaurant owners about him. Why didn't you tell me when I started dating him? Would you have believed me? You were in love. Her voice softened. But now you're ready to hear the truth. Come to my restaurant tomorrow morning. Bring your brother. You'll need a witness. After hanging up, I looked at Mom. Did you know about this the whole time? I found out after your engagement. Sarah swore me to secrecy, said you needed to see his true colours yourself. She returned to her sauce, adding a pinch of oregano. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones we have to learn on our own. My phone buzzed. Riker calling. Boss, you need to see this. Xander's at the Institute construction site with some suits. What? I'll be right there. I grabbed my keys, kissed Mom's cheek and rushed out. 15 minutes later, I pulled up to the construction site of what was supposed to be my culinary institute. Riker waited by his car, pointing to where Xander stood with 2 men in expensive suits, gesturing at the building. They're taking measurements, Riker said, like they're already planning to take over the space. I marched toward them, my boots crunching on gravel. Xander turned, his practiced smile never wavering. Vienna, you're looking well. Get off my property. Technically, once the judge grants the injunction, this property's ownership will be in question. He gestured to the men beside him. My associates are just doing their due diligence. Due diligence? I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. Like when you did your due diligence photographing Sarah's business plans 15 years ago. His smile flickered for just a moment, barely noticeable, but there. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Should we call Sarah and ask her? I'm sure she'd love to testify about your history of stealing business concepts. The suited men exchanged glances. Xander's jaw tightened. These are baseless accusations. We'll let the judge decide that. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Now I'll say it again. Get off my property. After they left, Riker whistled low. That was intense. What's this about Sarah? It's our silver bullet. I showed him the construction plans spread across my phone. Call everyone. Emergency meeting at my place in an hour. We're not just fighting this lawsuit, we're going to bury him with it. Back home, I spread everything across my kitchen counter. Sarah's magazine article, construction plans, my grandmother's original recipes, years of documented research. Sean arrived with takeout, and Riker brought our kitchen crew's statements about the concept's development. Sarah's bringing her evidence tomorrow, I told them. But we need more. Emery, can you dig into any other complaints against Xander's firm? There might be a pattern. Emery, our legal assistant friend, nodded. Already on it. And Vienna? You should represent yourself. What? I'm not a lawyer. No, but you know this business better than anyone. Plus, judges love self-represented parties who actually know their stuff. It makes Xander look worse for trying to bully you. I stared at the scattered papers, each one a piece of the truth I needed to tell. You know what? You're right. If Xander wants to play dirty, I'll show him how we handle things in a real kitchen. No shortcuts, no stolen recipes, just pure, honest work. Sean raised his coffee cup. To watching my sister serve justice. With a side of karma, Riker added. I smiled, feeling stronger than I had in days. Tomorrow I'd meet with Sarah and start building my case. Xander thought he could steal my dream. He was about to learn that some recipes can't be copied, they have to be lived. Sarah's restaurant was quiet at 7 a.m., the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. She laid out a thick manila folder on a table while her staff prepared for breakfast service. Everything's here, she said, spreading photographs across the table. Look at the dates on these. I picked up a photo showing Xander hunched over Sarah's desk, photographing documents with his phone. The timestamp showed February 15th, 15 years ago. I had installed security cameras after some wine went missing, Sarah explained. Never expected to catch a wannabe lawyer stealing business plans instead. Emery burst through the door, waving her tablet. You're not going to believe what I found. 3 other restaurants filed complaints against Xander's firm in the past year, all claiming he approached them about representation, then suddenly their business concepts showed up in other clients' establishments. Did any of them sue? Sean asked. They couldn't afford to, but they're willing to testify now. Sarah pulled out more documents. Add these to your evidence. Full documentation of my concept, dated and notarized, plus photos of Xander stealing it. And this, she slid over a USB drive, contains security footage. My phone buzzed. A text from Riker. Emergency at the site. Come quick. I have to go, I said, gathering the evidence. Something's wrong at the institute. When I arrived, I found construction workers standing idle while a man in a suit posted notices on the fence. Stop work order, Riker explained, his face grim. Xander's firm pushed it through this morning. He can't do that! I marched up to the suit. On what grounds? He barely glanced at me. Property ownership dispute. All construction must cease until resolved. That's my life savings going to waste every day these workers stand idle, I said, my voice rising. People are counting on jobs here. Take it up with the court. He walked away, leaving the bright orange notices fluttering in the breeze. I called Emery. How fast can we get a hearing? I've been working on that. Judge Martinez had a cancellation tomorrow morning. I can get us in, but Vienna... She paused. Are you sure you're ready? Xander's bringing his whole legal team. I don't have a choice. Every day we wait is another day he wins. Back at my apartment, we worked through the night. Sean ordered pizza while Emery coached me on courtroom protocol. Riker and the kitchen crew came by after service to help organize evidence. Remember, Emery said, Xander will try to rattle you. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Like keeping a level head during a dinner rush, Riker added, sorting photos into chronological order. Except the customers are trying to destroy your life, I muttered. Around midnight, Mum showed up with coffee and her special cannoli. Your grandmother fought harder battles than this, she said, setting the pastries down. She crossed an ocean with nothing but her recipes and her courage. I wish she was here. She is. Mum touched my heart. In every recipe you preserve, every technique you teach. Xander's trying to steal more than a business plan. He's trying to steal your heritage. Don't let him. At 3 a.m., everyone finally left. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee cups. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Xander at dinner with a woman I recognized, the health inspector who'd been unusually harsh during my last review. Thought you should see this, the message read. I'm his paralegal. There's more where this came from. I forwarded it to Emery, my hands shaking. Can we use this? Oh, yes, she replied immediately. This proves he's tampering with your business through unofficial channels. Save everything. I couldn't sleep, so I did what I always do when stressed. I cooked. By sunrise, My kitchen counters were lined with containers of pasta sauce, each batch tweaked slightly as I worked through my anxiety. Sean found me there, stirring another pot. Did you sleep at all? Couldn't, but I perfected Nonna's arrabbiata sauce. He tasted it and raised his eyebrows. This is different. Added extra chilies. Figured if I'm going to face Xander in court, I might as well be as fierce as my sauce. Speaking of which, he checked his watch, we need to get you dressed and to the courthouse in an hour. I looked down at my sauce-splattered chef's coat. Right, lawyer clothes. You've got this, sis. Sean squeezed my shoulder. Just remember, you're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for every chef who's ever had their dreams stolen. I nodded, thinking of Sarah, of my grandmother, of all the women who'd fought to make their mark in the culinary world. Xander thought he was facing a simple chef in court today. He was about to learn that in my family, recipes aren't just instructions. They're weapons of war. Time to show him, I said, untying my apron. Exactly what I'm made of. The courtroom felt colder than my walk-in freezer. Xander sat with his legal team, their suits probably worth more than my monthly food costs. I smoothed my borrowed blazer, Mom's from her real estate days, and tried to look confident. Judge Martinez peered over her glasses. Ms. Rice, you're representing yourself? Yes, Your Honor. Very well. Mr. Bryant, proceed with your motion for injunctive relief. Xander's lead attorney stood. Your Honor, my client developed the concept for this culinary institute. Ms. Rice's attempt to implement it constitutes intellectual property theft. Objection, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I can prove the concept's origins. Proceed, Judge Martinez said, as I opened Sarah's folder. I submit into evidence a published article from Culinary Quarterly, dated 18 months ago, detailing my development of this concept. I handed copies to the clerk. Additionally, I have documented research trips to Sicily, dated correspondence with Italian chefs, and business plans predating my marriage to Mr. Bryant. Xander's attorney smirked. Anyone can write plans. Mr. Bryant has proof he developed the financial and operational framework. Really? I pulled out my phone. Would the court like to see security footage of Mr. Bryant photographing my private business documents without consent? Or perhaps evidence of him interfering with my health inspections? The smirk vanished. Xander whispered urgently to his team. Your Honor, I continued, I call Sarah Newton as my first witness. Sarah walked in, her chef's whites pristine, her presence commanding. She took the oath and sat. Ms. Newton, please tell the court about your history with Mr. Bryant. Objection. Xander's attorney jumped up. Irrelevant to current proceedings. Your Honor, I countered, this establishes a pattern of behavior directly relevant to this case. I'll allow it, Judge Martinez said. Proceed. Sarah leaned forward. 15 years ago, Xander Bryant worked in my restaurant while attending law school. I caught him photographing my confidential business plans. He later attempted to sell my concept to a competitor. The courtroom buzzed. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. I have documented proof, Sarah continued, including security footage and witness statements. Xander's face had turned the colour of undercooked pasta. His attorney requested a brief recess, which the judge granted. In the hallway, Sean handed me a water bottle. You're killing it in there. Thanks to Sarah. I watched Xander huddle with his team. But he's got something planned. I can tell by his face, same look he'd get before lying about working late. Emery rushed up, waving her phone. The paralegal sent more. Texts between Xander and the health inspector planning surprise visits to disrupt your business. Perfect timing. I forwarded them to my email as we returned to the courtroom. Xander's attorney called their star witness, my former sous chef, Michael. Ms. Rice discussed her plans extensively with Mr. Bryant, Michael testified. He contributed significantly to the concept's development. Mr. Michael, I approached the stand. When did you leave my employment? 3 months ago. And where do you work now? He shifted uncomfortably. Bryant Hospitality Group. Isn't it true that Mr. Bryant offered you a position with his company the day after you quit? Objection? Speculation? Xander's attorney called. I have text messages, I said. holding up my phone, between Mr. Bryant and the witness, dated before his resignation, discussing his future employment. Judge Martinez's eyes narrowed. I'd like to see those messages. The next hour was a blur of evidence presentation. I showed the health inspector photos, the documented timeline of my concept development, and statements from other restaurant owners who'd encountered similar situations with Xander's firm. Finally, Judge Martinez spoke. I've seen enough to deny the motion for injunctive relief. Ms. Rice may continue construction of her institute. She fixed Xander with a stern look. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association for ethics review. The gallery erupted in whispers. Xander stormed out, his legal team scrambling after him. Sarah hugged me tight. Your grandmother would be so proud. It's not over, I said, watching Xander's retreating back. He'll appeal. Let him. Emery grinned. I've got more evidence coming. That paralegal's ready to turn over everything. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras. Sean tried to shield me, but I stepped forward. Ms. Rice, what's your response to today's ruling? I thought of my grandmother, of all the recipes she'd carried across an ocean, of all the women who'd fought to make their culinary dreams reality. The institute will open as planned, I said clearly, because some things can't be stolen. Passion, heritage, truth. Those have to be earned in the kitchen, one dish at a time. As we walked away, my phone buzzed with a text from Riker. Construction crews ready to restart tomorrow. We're back in business, boss. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. Xander had tried to steal my dream, but he'd forgotten the first rule of any kitchen. Never underestimate a chef who knows exactly what she's fighting for. The construction site hummed with activity as workers resumed their tasks. I stood watching the framework of my dream take shape when Riker rushed over, his face tense. We've got trouble. Someone leaked your grandmother's recipes online. My stomach dropped. What? He showed me his tablet. There they were, Nonna's sacred recipes, posted on a popular food blog, the ones I'd kept locked in my office safe, the ones only Xander had access to during our marriage. There's more, Riker said. The blogger claims these are traditional recipes anyone can use, and that you're trying to monopolize common knowledge. My phone rang. Sarah calling. Turn on Channel 7 now. Riker pulled up the news livestream on his tablet. There was Xander standing outside his law office, looking appropriately concerned for the cameras. My ex-wife's claims of recipe ownership are questionable at best, he was saying. These are traditional Sicilian recipes that belong to the culture, not any individual. Her attempt to profit from them is ethically dubious. That snake, Riker muttered. Get everyone to my place, I said. Now. An hour later, my kitchen was packed. Sean, Sarah, Emery, and my core team crowded around the counter, while Mom stress-baked cannoli in the background. He's trying to undermine your credibility, Emery said. Make it look like you're exploiting cultural heritage for profit. But that's not what the Institute is about. I slammed my hand on the counter. It's about preserving techniques, teaching authentic methods. We know that, Sarah interrupted, but public perception is everything. You need to get ahead of this narrative. My phone buzzed, a text from the paralegal. Meeting happening now, Z planning big move, watch your back. As if on cue, Riker's phone lit up. Boss, you need to see this. They're outside the construction site. We rushed to the site. A group of protesters stood at the fence holding signs. Culture isn't property and stop the recipe theft. This is orchestrated, Sean said. Look at their signs. All professional printing, same design. A news van pulled up. Xander stepped out, straightening his tie. Oh, hell no. I marched toward him, Sarah and Sean flanking me. Vienna, he said smoothly as cameras turned our way. Come to address the concerns about cultural appropriation. The only one appropriating anything is you, I shot back. Tell them about the recipes you stole from my safe. Tell them about the other restaurants you've threatened. I'm simply protecting cultural heritage from exploitation. Exploitation? Mom's voice cut through the crowd as she pushed forward. My mother carried these recipes across an ocean. She taught them to her children in a tiny apartment kitchen while working 3 jobs. They're not just recipes, they're our family's story. The protesters fell quiet. Mom's voice shook with emotion as she continued. Every dish has a memory. The arancini she made when we were sick. The sauce that simmered all Sunday while she told us stories about Sicily. My daughter isn't stealing culture. She's preserving it, teaching it, honoring it. Cameras swung toward Mom. Xander's practiced smile faltered. And you, Mom pointed at him. You sat at my table, ate my mother's recipes, pretended to care about our heritage. Then you stole not just recipes, but memories. Family history. A protester lowered her sign. Others followed. Sarah stepped forward. I can verify everything she's saying. I've documented Vienna's journey to preserve these techniques for years. This institute isn't about ownership, it's about education, preservation, and respect for culinary heritage. The real story here, I said to the cameras, is how a lawyer manipulated cultural sensitivity to attack a legitimate culinary school. Ask yourself why he waited until after losing in court to suddenly care about cultural appropriation. The news reporter turned back to Xander. Mr. Bryant, how do you respond to allegations that you stole these recipes from your ex-wife's private safe? Xander's face reddened. No comment. He retreated to his car as protesters began dispersing. Later that evening, my phone exploded with notifications. The video of Mum's speech had gone viral. Comments poured in from Italian-American families sharing their own recipe stories, their own memories of grandmothers teaching traditional techniques. Look at this, Emery said, showing me her laptop. 3 more paralegals from Xander's firm want to come forward. They're saying he's done this to other businesses too. We've got him on the ropes, Sean said. Maybe, I replied, watching the construction crews work under the setting sun. But he's desperate now. That makes him dangerous. Mom appeared with a plate of fresh cannoli. Then we'll be ready. You know what Nonna always said, a watched pot never boils, but it also never boils over. I took a cannoli, the sweet ricotta filling bringing back memories of countless family gatherings. You're right. Let him make his moves. We've got something he'll never have. What's that? Riker asked. I smiled, thinking of all the people gathered in my kitchen fighting alongside me. Authentic ingredients. The courtroom fell silent as Xander's surprise witness took the stand. Maria, my grandmother's former kitchen assistant from 20 years ago, smoothed her skirt and avoided my eyes. Ms. Maria, Xander's attorney began, please tell the court about your role in developing these recipes. I worked with Vienna's grandmother for 10 years, Maria said. Many of these recipes were collaborative efforts. I helped create them. The betrayal hit like a splash of hot oil. I'd known Maria since childhood, had watched her and Nonna work side by side in the kitchen. And did Mrs. Rice ever compensate you for your contributions? Xander's attorney asked. Objection. I stood. This witness's claims are impossible to verify after 20 years. Overruled, Judge Martinez said, but keep it relevant to the current case. Maria continued. These recipes weren't just one person's work. They belonged to the whole kitchen. I grabbed the folder Mom had brought me that morning. Your Honor, I'd like to present new evidence. Approaching the bench, I pulled out a yellowed document. This is my grandmother's original employment contract with Maria, dated 23 years ago. Section 4 specifically states that all recipes developed in the kitchen remain the property of the restaurant. Maria's face paled. Xander's attorney scrambled to examine the contract. Furthermore, I continued, I have my grandmother's original recipe journal, with dated entries going back 30 years. Every recipe includes notes about its origin, which village in Sicily, which family member taught it to her, even which mistakes led to improvements. I opened the worn leather journal, and here, when Maria did contribute ideas, Nonna credited her. See these margin notes? Maria's suggestion, more garlic in the pesto. She acknowledged collaboration while maintaining clear ownership. Your Honor, Xander's attorney interrupted. This doesn't change the fact that these are traditional recipes. Actually, Sarah stood from the gallery, I can speak to that. As a certified culinary historian, I can confirm that Vienna's grandmother's recipes contain unique modifications. They're not copies of traditional dishes. They're innovations based on tradition. Judge Martinez examined the journal. Ms. Rice, these notes are remarkably detailed. My grandmother believed in documentation, Your Honor. She knew someday someone might try to steal her life's work. I looked directly at Xander. She just never imagined it would be family. Maria burst into tears. I'm sorry, Vienna. He promised to fund my own restaurant if I testified. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Your Honor, I said, I'd like to call one more witness. Xander's former paralegal. Xander jumped up. Objection. Attorney-client privilege. Doesn't apply, the paralegal said, walking in. When the attorney is committing fraud. She carried a thick folder. I have documented evidence of Mr. Bryant's systematic theft of business concepts, including emails discussing how to target vulnerable restaurant owners. This is hearsay, Xander's attorney protested. No. Emery stood, holding up her tablet. It's authenticated evidence. I've verified every document's metadata. The paralegal turned to Xander. I watched you destroy too many small businesses. Not anymore. Judge Martinez called a recess to review the new evidence. In the hallway, Maria approached me. Vienna, I'm so sorry. When Xander showed up at my door, talked about opening my own place. She wiped her eyes. I forgot who really taught me everything I know. Nonna would have helped you, I said quietly. All you had to do was ask. I know that now. She pulled out a folded paper. Here's the truth. Everything Xander promised, everything he planned. Use it. Back in the courtroom, Judge Martinez looked grimmer than ever. Mr. Bryant, she said, these allegations are extremely serious. I'm ordering an immediate investigation into your firm's practices. As for the matter at hand, she turned to me. Ms. Rice, your evidence clearly establishes your right to these recipes and business concepts. The court rules in your favor. Relief flooded through me. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, Mr. Bryant is hereby ordered to cease all interference with Ms. Rice's business operations. Any violation will result in immediate sanctions. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Rice, what does this mean for the Institute? I thought of Nonna's journal, of all the margin notes and careful documentation of our family's culinary evolution. It means we're opening on schedule, I said. And our first class will be free for aspiring chefs who've had their dreams stolen. Because sometimes the best revenge is sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. Your grandmother would have loved that. Speaking of sharing, Mom said, pulling out her phone, you might want to see this. The local news was running the story, but with an unexpected twist. Dozens of other restaurant owners had come forward, sharing similar stories about Xander's firm. Looks like you started a movement, Sean said. I watched Xander push through reporters, his career crumbling around him. He'd tried to steal my heritage, my future, my voice. Instead, he'd given me something unexpected. A platform to speak for everyone he'd ever tried to silence. Come on, I said to my team. We've got an institute to build. The institute's kitchen gleamed under bright lights, every surface spotless, every tool in its place. In 2 hours, we'd open our doors for the first time. I adjusted the framed photo of Nonna on the wall, right next to the entrance where every student would see it. Final inspection's done, Riker announced, bursting through the doors. We passed with flying colours. The health inspector actually smiled this time. Amazing what happens when they're not being bribed, Sean said, arranging welcome packets at each station. My phone buzzed, a news alert. I clicked it and nearly dropped the phone. What? Sarah asked, looking up from the prep list she was reviewing. Xander's been disbarred. The investigation found evidence of systematic fraud going back years. I showed them the article. They're calling it the biggest legal ethics scandal in the state's history. Good, Mom said, setting down a tray of fresh focaccia. Now maybe you can focus on what matters. The doors opened and Emery rushed in. You need to see this, now. She led us outside where a line of people stretched around the block. Not just our registered students, but dozens more, some holding signs. Thank you for fighting back, and culinary justice. They're here to support the opening, Emery explained. Word spread through the restaurant community. These are all people Xander tried to shut down over the years. A woman stepped forward from the crowd. I'm Amanda. He killed my food truck business last year. When I heard what you did, how you fought back, she gestured to the crowd. We all wanted to be here. We brought food, someone called out. Others held up dishes, the aromas mingling in the morning air. It's like a potluck of revenge, Riker whispered. I grabbed a clipboard. How many of you want to learn to cook? Hands shot up throughout the crowd. Right. I turned to my team. New plan. Riker, set up the demonstration kitchen for overflow classes. Sean, copy more welcome packets. Mom? Already calling for more ingredients, she said, phone to her ear. Sarah touched my arm. Vienna, your grandmother's kitchen could barely fit 10 people. Look what you've built. The morning flew by in a blur of activity. We squeezed extra students into every corner, set up video feeds to overflow rooms, and somehow managed to teach 3 simultaneous classes. I moved between kitchens, watching people learn to knead dough with the same techniques Nonna taught me. During the lunch break, Amanda found me in the main kitchen. I saved these, she said, pulling out crumpled papers. The cease and desist letters from Xander's firm. I was going to burn them, but, she smiled, I think they belong on your wall. Show everyone what you overcame. More people brought their stories and their papers. By afternoon, we had a wall of evidence, threatening letters, fraudulent claims, killed dreams. But beside each one, we posted a photo of the person cooking in our kitchen, learning to rebuild. It's like a memorial, Sarah said, but for revival, not loss. A commotion at the entrance drew our attention. Maria stood there, clutching a worn recipe box. I found these in my attic, she said quietly. Notes your grandmother gave me, techniques she taught me. They belong here with her legacy. I hugged her tight. Stay, teach with us. This is what Nonna would have wanted. The day ended with an impromptu feast. Every surface held dishes created by our first students, some perfect, some hilariously flawed, all made with passion. To new beginnings, Sarah raised her glass, and to Vienna, who reminded us all that the best revenge is living well and cooking better. To Nonna, Mom added, who taught us that recipes are love made visible. My phone buzzed one last time. Another news alert. Disgraced attorneys' victims unite. Culinary Institute becomes symbol of resistance. They got it wrong, I said to the gathered crowd. This isn't about resistance, it's about persistence. Every recipe that survives, every technique that gets passed on, every student who learns to create, that's not resistance. That's existence. That's heritage. That's life. Amanda raised her plate of slightly burnt but lovingly made garlic bread. To life, then, and to the chef who gave us back our voices. Speaking of voices, Riker called out, wait until they hear about our next project. What next project? I asked. He grinned. The waiting list for classes. It's long enough to fill 3 more institutes. I looked around at my expanded family, the students, the survivors, the creators. At Mom showing someone how to properly roll cannoli shells. At Sarah demonstrating the perfect sauce technique. At Maria sharing Nonna's notes with reverent hands. Well, I said, I guess we better start planning. Because that's what you do in a kitchen. You take what you have, you share what you know, and you keep creating. Not for revenge, not anymore. But for every person who ever had a dream worth fighting for. And somewhere, I knew, Nonna was smiling. Steam rose from dozens of pots as I walked through the main teaching kitchen, checking each student's progress. The familiar scent of garlic and herbs filled the air, mingling with the sound of chopping and sizzling. Chef, Amanda called from her station, is this what you mean by sauce shouldn't break? I peered into her pot. Almost. Lower the heat slightly. Remember what we said about patience? The sauce is like revenge, she grinned. Best served at the proper temperature. The kitchen doors swung open and Riker burst in. They're here, Food and Wine magazine crew just arrived. I wiped my hands on my apron. Everyone keep cooking. This is about you, not me. The reporter Lisa met me in the entrance hall. She paused at our wall of testimonials, now covered with success stories instead of legal threats. Impressive transformation, she said, nodding at a photo of Amanda's new restaurant opening. But what inspired you to shift from revenge to rehabilitation? Watch, I said, leading her into the kitchen. Maria stood at the front demo station, teaching Nonna's signature arancini technique to a packed class. The secret, she was saying, isn't in the ingredients. It's in the stories we tell while we cook. Maria was once my opponent in court, I explained to Lisa. Now she's our most popular instructor. And these students all have similar stories. That woman there lost her catering business to predatory practices. Now she runs our advanced pastry program. The guy by the ovens, his food truck was shut down illegally. He just opened his second location. Sarah appeared with a stack of papers. Vienna, the new curriculum proposals are ready. We've got waiting lists for 3 new programs. Including, I prompted. She smiled. Legal basics for small business owners. Taught by reformed corporate lawyers who want to protect creative entrepreneurs instead of destroying them. Lisa scribbled notes. So, this isn't just a cooking school anymore. It never was, Mom said, emerging from her office with fresh cannoli. Try one. These were made by students who thought they'd lost everything. Taste their comeback. The kitchen doors burst open again. Sean rushed in, waving his tablet. You're trending again, sis. What now? Xander gave an interview, trying to defend himself. Social media exploded with Institute success stories. People are sharing how you helped them rebuild. Lisa bit into a cannoli, her eyes widening. This is incredible. That's Nonna's recipe, I said. But the student added cardamom. See? Heritage evolves. It grows. That's what Xander never understood. And what about him? Lisa asked. Any contact since the disbarment? No need. I gestured around the bustling kitchen. This is better than any revenge. Every successful student, every new business, every adapted recipe, they're all proof that authenticity wins. Emery appeared with more news. The State Bar Association wants you to speak at their ethics conference, and 3 more cities have requested institute branches. Expansion plans? Lisa raised an eyebrow. Maybe. I watched Amanda plate her perfectly emulsified sauce. But not just physical growth, we're building something bigger. A movement, Sarah added. A family, Mum corrected. The kitchen timer dinged. Students began plating their dishes for evaluation. I watched them work, seeing echoes of Nonna's techniques merged with their own creative touches. Final question, Lisa said. What would you tell someone facing what you faced? Before I could answer, Amanda spoke up from her station. Chef taught us it's not about fighting back, it's about cooking forward. Others joined in. It's about preserving heritage while creating future. Building community through food. Finding your voice in the kitchen. I smiled at their enthusiasm. They answered better than I could. Lisa closed her notebook. One last thing. Would you make me something? I want to taste the dish that started it all. I tied my apron tighter. Better idea. I'll teach you how to make it yourself. As I guided her through Nonna's signature pasta, I realized something. The revenge I'd craved had transformed into something far more satisfying, not just teaching recipes, but sharing strength. Every person in this kitchen had faced their own Xander, their own betrayal. But here they were, creating, evolving, thriving. The wall that once held evidence of destruction now showcased creation. Where legal threats once hung, student achievements gleamed. We'd built something no lawsuit could touch, no betrayal could break. The sauce is ready, Lisa announced proudly. Perfect timing, I said, because that's the real secret, knowing when to let go of anger and embrace possibility instead. The kitchen hummed with energy, dozens of stories simmering together into something new. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It was better. It was legacy. I touched Nonna's photo on the wall. She'd taught me that recipes were love made visible, but now I understood. They were also courage made tangible, Heritage made endless and redemption made delicious. The timer dinged again. Another class ready to plate, another group ready to rise. Time to taste what they'd created. After all, the best dishes aren't served cold. They're served with hope, seasoned with triumph, and shared with family, both old and new.